Welcome to Cripple and Baldy, a podcast for the rest of us.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. We would like to welcome you to sit down, have a drink, smoke a smoke, toke a toke. Talking about the marijuanas, in case you didn't get that.
That's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel.
Andrew Gurza is a disability awareness consultant and cripple content creator. He has presented all across North America on sex and disability as a queer crippled man. His written work has been highlighted in Out Magazine, The Advocate, and Huffington Post. He hosts the Disability After Dark podcast, which shines a bright light on sex and disability while also aiming to explore parts of the disabled experience that we don't often hear about.
Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
We are super excited because when we first started our podcast, the guest that we wanted on was you, and now you're here, and it came so quickly, and we are so excited.
I am so honored to be the guest you wanted on your show. That's nice. Wow, I didn't realize I was that.
2020 goals.
I mean, given the shitstorm that is 2020, that's a pretty attainable and nice goal to have.
Whatever. So also I wanted to say that, like, I know I said this before on the podcast, I ended up getting screwed up because we fucked it up. But so I'll say it now so people can actually hear it, which is that you have been so inspiring to me as a disabled person, like, because of you and how open you are about yourself and like sexuality. It has made me feel like I can do that as well. So I just want to say thank you for existing.
It's not me, it's all you. I'm glad that I'm glad that all these ideas that I have literally from my bedroom, like when I started doing this, I had no idea what I'm doing, and it's 8 years on, and I still have no idea what I'm doing. There's no framework on how to be a disability activist, so whatever way, like, I'm glad that my experience helps somebody to see that they can do that. But again, whatever way you do that is, I say go for it, and I'm glad that I could be a little teeny part of your story. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You're like Judy Human.
I mean,
like, nowadays.
Wow, I just watched Crip Camp the other day for another podcast my friend and I are working on, a whole other show we're doing together, and so we had to watch Crip Camp for the first time, and I didn't stop crying for an hour and a half.
Yeah. That was amazing. I didn't realize like how like people like I didn't even realize there were activists, like disabled rights activists, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's just something that we're not really taught, because we hear about a lot of movements, but that wasn't one that was like, you know.
Yeah,
told.
and I didn't realize how connected it was to like civil rights and the Black Panthers, and like all of those other movements were connected to the disability rights movement. And I really do wish, like, that's why I love the film so much, because it made me like, wow, there were dudes in the 70s in their wheelchairs talking about the stuff that I'm talking about right now. Like, well, what? Like, it was so eye-opening to see that.
Yeah, seriously. I was like shocked, because I was like, why isn't it better?
Like,
like, if this is happening.
Yeah, like they're chatting about that stuff 50 years ago, and we're still having conversations like that today.
Right, and we're still, it's like hasn't changed that much. I mean, it has changed. I mean, they did a lot. Like, I realize now, I'm very grateful for all of
course,
my
I think
disabled
we all
brothers and
are,
sisters that came before me.
But like,
yeah,
it's just it's so painful to think that in 2020 the conversation isn't over. It's just started now.
Yeah,
I made my whole family watch it. I was like, all right, guys, movie time. And then we talked about it afterwards, because I have a 13-year-old at home, so I think it's like really important to make sure that I was, kind of brought up to be an advocate, that he knows and is aware of his privilege, and so that he can also advocate as well.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Yay!
So we have some just kind of general questions that we like to ask our people that we bring on the podcast when we do interviews.
Sure.
And they're, just very, I'm going to very
I saw
awkwardly
them.
ask
I saw them. They're chill. They're all right. And I like it because I don't have to do any work. I just get to sit here and be the guest. So go ahead.
Okay. So in your own words, who are you?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Right?
In my own words, who am I? I am awkward. I'm weird. I'm strange. I'm introverted. I want to say I'm cool, but I know I'm not. I'm just like this weird kid that wants attention.
Aren't we all?
But like, and then if I was to be like doing a professional thing, I would say I'm a disability awareness consultant. I would say that I do all this work, but deep inside, I'm just like this little boy that's like, hey, want to be friends? Want to hang out? Like, I'm here for that. Like, that's, and I think I'm somebody who everybody says to me all the time, like, oh, you're so confident. Like, how did you grow this brand to be such a confident guy? And I always laugh at them when they say that, because I'm like, I'm not confident. Have you like seen anything else that I do? I'm so awkward and weird. I'm not confident at all. But I think that's what endears me to my hope is to the community, because like I don't try to put on airs of who I am. I just try to present myself as honestly as I can. And I mean, I guess I'm also a disabled man. I'm queer. I suck some great dick. What other things about me do you want to know?
I don't know. I think that's a great response. It was just kind of, just to get the conversation going, like real organically. And I think that it's important to kind of be able to speak to who you think you are, because sometimes it's not the same as what you're presenting. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, because when you say that people tell you all the time that how are you so confident, and you don't get that. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you was like,
I also love that one of you just took a screenshot of us.
I'm so
right
sorry.
now.
That was me. I don't use Skype a lot, and I just messed up something.
That was great. Can that be the cover art for this very special episode of the thing?
I have no idea if I saved it. I don't know. But yes, I will send it if I did
Amazing.
save it. And I'm gonna stop messing with. I'm gonna keep messing with it because I made everyone really small.
Amazing.
Wow.
Okay, I fixed it.
Good job.
Sorry, you were saying?
I was gonna say, like, to me, you do appear confident, but it's also like your vulnerability. That's what to me is the most like kind of like wow looking at you, because I'm not kidding when I say like when I started listening to you when you were doing that other podcast, like it was just ending and you started Disability After Dark.
I was doing Deliciously Disabled like way back in the some things went down with the person I was working with, and we didn't jive so well anymore. So I was like, you know what? I'm doing my own thing. Bye, best of luck to you. And I broke away. And it was time for me to do a rebrand. But no, I really appreciate that. Like, I've been doing this show, iterations of this, for the last 3.5 years. And to know that people like actually listen to what I do, because, you do it from your house and you don't know who's going to listen, and you don't think that it's going to be a big thing. I never do. I'm just this awkward guy with ideas about disability that I want to put out there in the world. And I hope that they go somewhere. And I'm learning. My friend and I did a podcast the other day where we're starting a whole other show. I guess I can plug it. I kind of half created it, so I'll plug it. It's called, we haven't put it out yet. It's in production, but it's called Popcorn and Power Chairs. And we're doing this like media show where we sit down and just watch disability themed media and talk about it together. And so we were recording the first episode of that of Crip Camp, and I was being really, because I'm a podcast host, so I was being really in control and wanted to like set things up. And my friend was like, dude, you're not having any fun. Like, don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about if it's going to go anywhere. Don't worry if anyone's going to listen to it. Just talk to me like we're having fun. And so then it really kind of taught me to like, don't care about the numbers. Don't care about if it's going to be the biggest podcast in the world. If it's making an impact. Like, so the fact that you've been listening to me since the Deliciously Disabled show, which was literally like, God, 5-6 years ago now, that's like such a nice compliment, because I never expected what I do to go anywhere.
Well, it's like this niche thing because nobody's talking about it. And I think that's like when I found it, I was like, oh my God, this is a thing and you're talking about it. Because I feel like there's so much shame put on disabled people just in general, and especially like when it comes to sexuality. It's like we're not allowed to be sexual. So like talking about it so openly, it even took me aback as a disabled person. I was like, what? You're just like saying
Which
that?
is hilarious if you know her, because she is always giving me a hard time. She's like, you're such a prude. Why are you being such a prude? Because she likes to, you know, not be that.
Yeah, it's true. That's true, but it's like with people I know, like I'm always like really perverted and like myself when I'm comfortable with people, but like just in like the general, you know, public, I wouldn't like when they like tell me I'm not sexual or that no one would want me, like I just am like, yeah, you're right. Like I've so like held true to that narrative. So like this new narrative that you were like that you preach, which is like, you know, we're deserving of like sex and love and everything, and we're just like human beings. That to me was so radical, even though it's so like, of course we're human beings. It's such a, we should all feel like, of course we deserve all of these things because we're just human beings. But I've just been so beaten down by the whole narrative of like I can't be sexual, no one wants me, I'm worthless. That like you saying it just I don't know. It like freed me in a way. It was like freeing.
That's so awesome. Like
So.
just to piggyback off what you said, I feel all those things too. I feel like I'm not wanted. I feel like I'm not sexy enough. I feel like I'm not, especially in my community of like queer, able-bodied, cis, muscular white men who are totally commodifying sexiness through like blatant displays of sexuality and like which is great, and I support them. But then I come rolling in and I'm like, hey, I want to get my dick sucked too, and everyone's like, oh yeah, about you. We're not sure what to do with that.
How do you deal with like rejection, like internally? Like what do you do? Like do you just brush it off? Or,
Oh
like,
no, I have a whole internal process that I go through of like self-hatred is day one. Then I put on some Adele. Then I eat some then I eat some M&Ms. Then I watch like bad sitcoms and just try to make myself feel better. Frasier's my go-to. And you know, there is a lot of internal stuff, and then I'll reach out to people that I think I'm attractive and say like, hey, can we have a chat? Can we talk about this? Can you like build me up a little bit? Can you make me feel like I'm worthy of a sexy chat or something, just to make myself feel. So there's a lot of stuff that I deal with. I won't say that I brushed it off. It's really hard to brush it off for me because I take it very personally when I invite somebody into my experience, and I think if I'm going to show you about my disability and I'm going to show you all this stuff and you reject me anyway, then I'm like, oh fuck, I don't think I could brush it off. I'm a very emotional guy. I'm very much like I'm a big teddy bear and I want love and affection, and if somebody hurts me, it hurts.
Yeah.
And I used to be very much like, oh fuck, whatever, you don't get me, you're an ableist douchebag. But now I'm more like, okay, well that hurts, let's feel that, let's talk about it, let's write it down. Like if somebody rejects me online, I don't know if you've seen my social media, but I'll post a picture of what they said because I want people to see like this is the ableism we deal with every day.
Yeah.
And this is the stuff that people put out there to us, and this is why I feel this way. So I deal with it in very personal ways, but also very public ways to make sure people know that ableism is real.
Yeah. I feel like the hardest thing too is when you're rejected as a disabled person, you're also being rejected by society at large. So it's not even like, it's like, I don't know, it makes it like extra hard, I think, because any other person that's like an able-bodied person, if they're rejected, like, you know, everybody could pat you on the back and be like, don't worry, it was just that person. But it's like when it's the majority, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't put out that negative like thing. I shouldn't say it's the majority. But like when it's a lot of people like kind of like having the same narrative in their mind, it's like really hard to like not internalize that.
Yeah,
So.
it's not even that they have most of the narrative. It's what they've been fed from way old times about disability. It's what's been ingrained in their culture without them even realizing it. That's what's scary, is how do you teach somebody to unlearn something they don't even know they know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awkward
Yeah.
silence. We're like,
Oh, sorry, I was definitely down the idea. All right, good, sorry.
All right, and that's it. Thank you for joining. No. Okay. So, would you tell us a little bit about? We are not professional. Would you
Neither
tell
am
us?
I. Neither am I.
Good twinsies. Would you tell us a little bit about your diagnosis and how it affects your life?
Sure. I was diagnosed at 1.5 years, I think, with cerebral palsy, spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy, and for me, that means that I can't walk and that I use a wheelchair. For anybody who doesn't know what CP is, just in case you need to know, CP is the colloquial term for cerebral palsy, which is a group of movement disorders that affects speech, muscle tone, spasms, swallowing. It affects the brain, so it is brain damage. I was born 3 months early, so I came out in 6 months because I was like, fuck y'all, I'm here. And I died 3 times as a baby.
What?
I died 3 times on the table. I was dead, finished, over. So I am a miracle child, quite literally. There's pictures of me when I was born pulling out the tubes in my body, being like, fuck you, I'm surviving. No. So my mom's always said I was a miracle kid, and that there's no inspiration porn there. She literally is just saying you were a miracle kid because you wouldn't let them let you die. So my CP means that I use a power wheelchair. It means that I need help with dressing. It means that I need help with every aspect of my day-to-day life, from brushing my teeth to getting out of bed to using the toilet to having a shower. All that stuff is how I'm affected. So it does affect every aspect of my day-to-day life. When people say things to me like, Andrew, your disability doesn't define you, I was kind of roll my eyes and go, oh, yes, it does. It has to. It totally does, and that's fine. So it does define everything that I do every day. CP is not supposed to be progressive, but I find that as I get older, as I kind of enter my mid-30s and near my 40s, my body's getting more tired, my bones are hurting more. There is definite marks of CP that I'm learning about as I age.
Yeah, I feel like that's when you age, though. Your body just gets less good with everyone, because people have asked me that about my condition too, and I'm like, it's not progressive, but when you get older, your bones get more fragile, so it kind of is progressive. So it's
yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, in a sense, all disabilities are progressive, just because when you get older, your body gets less, I don't know, elastic.
Yeah, I have definitely gotten way more bald as I've gotten older, so I can relate.
Me too. Me too.
So, what did it take for you to become proud of your disability?
Oh, with the loaded life questions right now.
That's how we do it here.
Yeah, we get deep and then we get ridiculous.
You know what? I love that so much. You know what? There are days where I'm not proud of my disability. There are days where my disability really fucking sucks, and there are days where I don't feel happy about it or proud of it. So I wouldn't say that I am always proud. I would say that I have not a responsibility, but an opportunity to show people that being disabled is important. Being disabled and queer is important, and I embody those experiences, and I embody the privilege of a white, disabled queer man, cis man, who can use my platform to make change. So why wouldn't I do that? And in showing people about my disability, if you follow my social media, there are posts that I post where I'm like, today I feel like shit. Today disability sucks. Here's why I hate it. Here's why it's really bad. And then juxtaposed with being disabled is okay, being disabled is all right. Let's talk about these experiences. I try to be less of I'm proud to be disabled, and more of I'm proud to be disabled, but let's talk about the reality of it. It's getting people to move past the Pride 101, being disabled is nice, and into how does being disabled feel? What does that feel like? Let's talk about that. That's kind of where my activism has shifted. From at first it was I'm queer and disabled and I want to get my dick sucked, and no one's talking about that. And now it's more okay, I'm queer and disabled, but I really want to go deeper into let's deconstruct that, and how does that feel, and what is my privilege, and what is my oppression, and how do all these things go together or not go together, and let's really kind of unpack that, because I think so much of disability activism for non-disabled people is surface, in that it's very much started and stopped with, "Ooh, you're disabled. That's okay." Period.
Yeah.
But nobody goes into like, how does all of that feel for you as a disabled person? How does that? Are you like? How do you feel in the morning? How do you feel when you go to bed? What? How does ableism play a role in your life every day? How does it hurt you? How does it empower you? How does disability make you really mad and really angry, or really happy, or like? What people don't realize is you're in a relationship with your disability 24/7, and it's some days it's a relationship you love and it's great, and there are moments that I really hate it. Like, for instance, I'm looking at doing a podcast episode for my show in the next couple of weeks. It's like the 5 things I wish I could do if I could walk. That's gonna be a tough episode to record because like I'm gonna have to get deep into like, oh, I can't walk and I want to do this. Like, so it's really getting, my activism is so much more now about how does it feel deep inside? Like, what is the really hard stuff? What is the stuff because there's so much of it that we're not talking about, and it's just sitting right underneath the surface. That's like, let's go beneath that. Let's go beneath. It's okay to be disabled. Like, let's go underneath that. Yeah, it is. But what about the ableism underneath that? What about internalized ableism? What about all those things together? And so I like to get right in the shit and be like, let's talk about it together. But my job as an activist now is to make it accessible to other people. And it's like and Jasmine, when you and I talked on the one that got fucked up last time, we had a kind of a mini
Sorry,
discuss.
guys.
It's alright, it's good. We had a mini discussion about like, you know, trying to do it in a way that's positive, and I don't do it in a way that's positive or negative. I do my activism in a way that's real. So some days I'm an asshole, and some days I'm pissed off, but I try to do it in a way that doesn't put down non-disabled people, because I think the best way to teach them is to remain calm and kind. And I know, like, I'm pissed off all the time, but if I present consistent anger towards non-disabled people, which I'm seeing a lot in disability activism right now, which I have feelings about, and I get it, it's okay and it's valid, but it isn't going to move us further along to acceptance if we yell at everybody all the time.
Right. I get what you're saying. Like, I like how you say that you're going from a basis of like putting your feelings out there, because I think that able-bodied people are more likely to understand when you put, like, when they see that you have feelings, because I feel like a lot of times we're kind of like seen as like an other type of thing, like we're cyborgs or something, that are just jolly all the time.
I'd be a cyborg. 7 of 9's my jam. Like, let's go, Jerry Ryan. I want to be your best friend. Can we figure that out?
I don't know the reference.
Really?
Yeah.
Star Trek Voyager 7 of 9. Oh wow.
I'm sorry.
Well, that just proves what a giant nerd I am.
You said it. Hey.
I'm a nerd. But Star Trek Picard's my jam. If anybody watches Star Trek Picard, I'm here for it. But like, I kind of like the idea of cyborg, but I hear what you're saying. Like, people need to remember that disabled people have feelings and what that feels like. So my activism is not so much on my website anymore, not so much on my... It's mostly on social media. It's mostly through tweets and Instagram. Like, I kind of want to become an Instagram star, because, like... And not for, like, oh, here's my body, I'm so beautiful, but more like, here's my body, and here's a discussion of disability. Like...
I feel like, because I've seen some disabled people who do have like a lot of followers, like 200,000 or something, like Tess Daily, right? Tess Daily,
yeah.
That's her name, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she does makeup, and she's great. She's really talented. She's a really great makeup artist. But I feel like a lot of times, like, disabled people who have like a big following by able-bodied people, it's usually because they're living up to some sort of idea that able-bodied people want to have about disabled people. So like, to them, like, she inspires them because they think that because she's disabled, she should have no talents. And it's crazy and wild that a disabled person can like do something. So I feel like there should be more. That would be great. I would love it. I am supporting you becoming an Instagram star, because I would love more able-bodied people to like really actually support disabled people because they want equal rights for us, and not just that they want to like be seen as cool because they follow some like a disabled person who has a skill. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're woke. Yeah, because they're quote
Yeah.
unquote woke.
So like,
yeah,
it's like, well, it's like digital inspo porn. It's like, you follow me because you give a fuck about it. And some of my followers probably don't. Probably are inspired that I breathed. But really, like, listen, I'll take that extra follow, sure.
yeah. That's unnerving though. Doesn't that like bother you? Like the thought of like somebody just following you because they still don't get it? Because to me that makes me very angry.
No, I mean, not really. My hope is that I can help them get it. My hope is that they'll keep following me and keep seeing what I post and keep seeing that I post real stuff about disability and be like, maybe you'll learn something. Maybe not. Maybe you just think I'm cute. That's like, I don't know. Like, but listen, I think that it makes me angry, but there's no point in. I really have a hard time expressing my anger when it comes to this stuff because I don't want to be seen as the angry disabled guy.
Yeah.
So like, it pisses me off, but I want to teach somebody, and if I can change their mindset with a smile and some jokes, why wouldn't I do that? Because I mean, and I think we mentioned this last time, there have been moments where I've been super ableist too, and I've had to like check myself and like, oh dear, that was a really shitty thing I said. Better go back and double check that. So like, I understand a little bit when people fuck up, and I think my job is to gently guide them to a better place. And if they keep doing it, then of course I'm gonna tell them to fuck right off. But if they stumble a couple times, that's okay too.
Yeah, you're patient. I get it's good what you're doing. It's good. It's a better approach than mine. I agree with you. I just get so like angry and I just attack people because I just can't. I'm like, stop treating me like that. Like, stop.
I mean, but also sometimes attacking people is super fun. I get it. It's super fun to be like, I'm gonna take you down.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Cool.
I wanted to ask you, how did you get to like, what made you want to start doing a podcast in the first place? Like, what made you want to start like speaking up? What started it all, I guess?
I was doing a lot of writing for HuffPost, and I wasn't getting paid at the time. They didn't pay their writers. I was doing a lot of freelance writing just to get my name out there. And if I put my name on big platforms, people would know who I was. Like, because let's be real, I'm a fame whore. I like attention. I like the spotlight. That's part of why I did this activism, because I wanted people to know who the fuck I was.
Yeah.
And then, I was doing all this writing. And writing when you have hand disabilities like I do, like my hands, I'll show them on the camera here, but you can see their little, like, they're kind of deformed, not deformed, but they're like deformed a different way.
Yeah.
And to type a lot hurt. Typing was hurting me. And I was like, well, I can just use my voice. I can just talk. And I went on like iTunes back when iTunes had a lot more podcasts. And they have a ton now, but when they were the ones where you started your pod on. So I went to go look on iTunes to see what disability podcasts are out there. And I was like, there's like none. There's like 0 disability centered podcasts out there. And to my excitement, there were none about sex, and I was like, well, let me put one out. And I didn't have a mic like you see me right now. I didn't have any equipment. I literally had my Apple headphones that I plugged into my computer, and that was it. That was my equipment, and I just started talking and being like, all right, well, I guess this will be a show. And I just started like, if you listen back to my very first episode of this podcast, it was literally me going, hey guys, hey, or not this podcast, but my show. It was me going, hey friends, so I want to talk about disability, like for 20 minutes and just repeating the same thing over and over again in like 4 different ways, because I didn't know how to be a host. And so I've learned a fuck ton since I started doing that. And I wanted to put it out there, and it was really cool to see a thing that I had created when they were charting the podcast. When they had it on like the charts for the first week, it was in the top 10 of like sex and disability when it first came out, and I remember being like, wow, that's really cool. And there was one time 2 years ago where I was in the top spot for like a day and a half, and I literally was like, oh, that's really cool, because I don't have a production team. I'm just like you two. It's just us kind of making a thing and hoping to God that it goes somewhere. So the fact that it was getting that kind of recognition, and then to see it go, like recently before the lockdown, I was invited to LA to promote the podcast for an award show, and like I was invited as a nominee, so like that's cool. And so like I had no ambitions of it going anywhere. I thought I'd do 5 episodes and get bored, and now we're on episode like 190 something. So it's really cool that people care enough about the show. People have written in to me and criticized the show and give me like critical advice. People have written in and said like the show changed my life, like thank you. People have told me that the show like Jasmine told me that the show was important to her. Like it's really neat that this thing that I do from my bedroom has been picked up by all these outlets who are excited by what I do. So that's cool. I hope that sort of answered the question.
Yeah, that's like you're the perfect example of you should just do it. Just go for it. Like, don't wait to do stuff. Like, just do it.
Mm-hmm. I really recommend any disabled people that want to create anything, whether it be a podcast, whether it be a blog, whether it be like a YouTube channel, just fucking do it. Even if it sucks and no one pays attention to it, who cares? My friend, the one that I was saying that we're starting that other podcast, we were talking about it the other day, and he goes, "Are you having fun doing it?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Then it doesn't matter about the numbers. It doesn't matter if it goes anywhere. If you're enjoying yourself for the next hour, great. That's what people want."
Yeah, I agree. We've been also trying to not think about that too. We're having like a struggle of being like, who's listening to this? That's okay. We'll just keep doing it. But
yeah, you should.
It's for us.
It's for. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, because they want to start a podcast and they want to use my platform to do it. They asked me if they could use Disability After Dark to host their show, and I said sure. It'll give me more numbers, and it's great for me. Like, fine, great. And so they said, we don't care about the numbers. We want to be in community, and we thought of you right away. And I was like, that's really that's what it's about. It's not about becoming the biggest star. Like when I joked earlier about how I want to be an Instagram star, I don't even care about that. I care about the stuff I put out there hopefully can change someone's views on disability and make them think differently and make them consider disability in a way they maybe hadn't before, but in a way that isn't like, fuck you, I'm disabled, you're not, you don't get it. Like that's a valid feeling, but it isn't going to move us further along. And I feel like a lot of the activists out there today that do disability work, and I have been one of those activists, so I can speak to that. Like, you're allowed to be angry and disabled, as angry as you want, of course, but what are you doing to mobilize that anger? That's why I love Judy Human so much, because she's fucking angry all the time, but she knows how to sit in front of a camera or sit in front of a mic and put a smile on her face and be the fucking badass bitch that she is and do her job with a smile on her face. And when the camera's off, she can go in the back room and cry and be upset and be as angry as she needs to, but she knows how to deliver it in a way that doesn't make, like, part of that documentary that I love so much was when she's sitting in, and we're going off on a tangent here, I don't care. She's sitting in, she's sitting with that newscaster, and the newscaster says, "Judy, why are you still so angry about, civil rights and disability rights? Are you still mad about all that silly stuff?" And she goes, "Yeah, like, yes, I am angry, but I want to find a way to put a positive spin on it." And when she said that, I was like, yep, that's the kind of activist that I want to be right there.
Yeah. That's hard to do, though. I get it. You're right. It's like, what's that saying? Like, you get more bees with honey or whatever. Yeah.
But
it's true.
I agree with you that it's hard. It's hard. And so part of my activism is doing the journey between putting a smile on and just being downright pissed.
Let the anger fuel you.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like when I think about like Judy Human and like everything she had to fight for, and like when she couldn't get her teacher's license and stuff, she had to like, I mean, that's even harder like than even nowadays, because I feel like as far as we have come far.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. She like even had to, like, there was everybody around her was being like, what do you mean? Like, you can't do anything. You can't be anything. What do you want these rights? Like, everybody like was like basically like saying that shit to them, giving them all that shit. And they had to like fight against it anyways. And to me, I feel like that would be so hard to like deal with, to like just have so many opposing people towards you and still like pushing through.
I just can't imagine being in the 70s in New York trying to fucking get around. Like, I can't, like,
Yeah.
let's go back 50 years and try to, like, 1972 in New York, trying to get around. Judy, how the fuck did you do it? That's,
Yeah.
like, I said to my friend and I that are doing Popcorn and Power Chairs, we talked about it afterwards, and I was like, I'm gonna just tweet her and, like, Judy Human, I want you on all the shows. Please.
Are you gonna? Or did you?
I tweeted her and was like, Judy, you don't know me, but, like, I fucking admire you. Please come on the show. Please, please. So we'll see what happens. I don't know.
That would be awesome. We should tweet her too. You should get all of the people following you to retweet her.
To
get
just
her.
tweet it. Because, like, I want to just sit and listen to her tell stories. I think disabled stories. And that's why I think activism needs to shift. I think we need to have disabled activism that is just storytelling. It is not necessarily rooted in, I'm an angry disabled person. Yeah, you can be angry, but tell me the story behind why you're angry, and then maybe the non-disabled people will listen to that more. Because what they're hearing is, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry. They're not hearing, I'm angry because of, no. And so what Judy was really good at was like, I'm mad because of here's why. And like, I can't get my teacher's license, or I can't get up these stairs, or I can't, you won't sign this thing. She was great at telling story. And so, like, I want to hear more. That whole documentary, I was like, okay, can we have a doc just about Judy? Like, and not so much about, also what I loved about Crip Camp and what I wanted so much more of was their summer camp experience. I loved the activism part. It was necessary and important, and it was great. But I was like, I want an hour of them at camp fucking each other. Those are the stories that I want to hear. That was the part that I was like, this is great. More of this, please.
I think that like telling stories is tremendously important. You're totally right, because I think what that does is it humanizes disabled people, which we are human, but we have to like remind people of that.
Yep, every day.
Yeah, it's so fun. But like even like I remember having a conversation with my friend and trying to explain to him like how I'm treated, how I'm seen as like non-sexual, how like I'm so dismissed. And he wouldn't like, it would not get in his brain, and he just couldn't understand. He's like, I guess there's some people like that. And so I finally told him a story when I was on an airplane. And I got on the airplane first, and I had my dog with me, and this guy comes and sits next to me, and he just starts being like real flirtatious with me and like trying to be all cute, and he was so fucking annoying. Oh my God, he was so annoying. But like, anyways, whatever. So we got off the airplane, or he got off, and then I got off, and then him and his friend saw me at baggage claim, and like the look on their face was like they were embarrassed and like didn't want to like make eye contact with me. It was like they looked at me and then like, like, oh no, like I was flirting with a cripple. And like, so when I told my friend this story about how it went from like this guy being all cute to me to him like looking at me like I was a monster, then he was like, really? He was like, that happened? Are you serious? Oh my God. And he was kind of like, that made him think. And so I think you're totally right. Stories are what get people to think.
Yeah. I want more stories. I think the stories that disabled people have told me over the 3 years of me doing the show have been really powerful, and it's made me consider my own privilege of like, I'm pretty privileged in the disability space. I'm a white, cisgender, disabled man who has the ability and the privilege to speak. There are so many of us out there with disabilities who are totally fine cognitively, but can't verbalize what we want to say, and are then treated like we're less than if we can't actually speak the words. So I try to remember when I do this, what I do. Like, I'm very lucky to have the platform and the privilege I do.
Yeah, I've realized that too. Like, the more I've been like getting involved in the disability community, even just like following people I don't know on Instagram, I've realized like how like there's people who like get put into foster care and like grow up in foster care as a disabled person. And I just like think to myself,
I think I would cry. I think I would be upset every day.
yeah, like I'm just like, I can't, like I couldn't imagine breaking bones and also being in like a new home whenever, and who knows what happens in that home. Like, so yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's like we have to see, everybody has something that's, that they should be grateful for. Everybody. That sounds like inspiration porn, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it's true.
So I feel like this is a great time to play Fuck, Marry, Kill.
Yep. Gonna,
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
let's do it.
I'm ready.
So, first one, Giovanni Ribisi.
Yep.
Second, Daniel Levy. And third, James Corden.
Oh, kill James Corden.
Damn, that was quick.
Fuck Gianna Ribisi, because he was Phoebe's brother on Friends, and then
Yes.
Daniel Levy. I mean, I saw Schitt's Creek. That's my jam, and he's a Canadian boy, so
Yeah.
I gotta fucking marry him, man. That's it. Also, I bumped into him 2 years ago in Toronto Pride. Nice guy, sweet guy. So, really, I want to marry him.
Yeah, he's
Oh
so
my
hot.
gosh.
We're very
He
into
is.
it also. So
Yeah.
Schitt's Creek is the
Schitt's
jam.
Creek
Yeah.
is the best. So, I'm going to go differently. Okay, so I would kill Giovanni Ribisi. No hard feelings. No hard feelings. I would fuck Daniel Levy. And then I would marry James Corden because he looks like he knows how to have a good time and he likes to eat. That's all I'm saying.
Why did I feel like you were gonna go there? And I was ready for that.
I mean, like, I like to eat. I mean, like, I feel like he probably
I
does.
too like to eat. I am,
Like-
and this is not a fat shamey thing. I am enjoying quarantine meals more than I ever would. I bought myself a quarantine cake the other day because I was like, fuck
Oh,
it, it's
awesome.
quarantine. It was really good. I really enjoyed myself. So, like, to all those fat shamers out there who are like, oh, I want to drop the pounds. Listen, if you gain weight over quarantine, it's fine. Enjoy it. Cause
Live your life.
yeah, what else are we doing?
Yeah, you might as well eat delicious food.
Right? Because you could die of COVID tomorrow.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Live
Yeah.
your life to the fullest. I don't know if we already said this, but me and Baldy literally have the same exact taste in men. It's kind of insane. Like,
Not
to
the
the
same
point.
for women, though.
No, we have very different tastes.
It's very odd.
So you both want to make out with James Corden? Because I mean, did you ever watch the guy before James Corden? What was his name? Craig Ferguson?
Yeah.
Listen, if Craig Ferguson came over and was like, I want to do things to you with my body, he's like, all right, sure.
Really?
No problem. There was something about his Scottish accent that I was like, you're really attractive, and you're really also really dirty, and you're funny. I
Yeah,
like
he's
that.
funny.
Like, I go back and I watch his old show, some clips on YouTube, and I'm like, come back to TV.
Yeah, he's probably rolling in his money. He's like, I don't gotta do nothing no more. I'm just gonna hang out in Scotland,
Right?
I'm
wherever.
all right with that.
I'm going to kill Daniel Levy.
What?
Sorry. He's beautiful. Okay. I find him very aesthetically pleasing. Okay.
Yes.
But he's gay. So like if I fucked him, he wouldn't be into it.
He's
like
actually
Like, come
pansexual,
on.
as far as I remember. As far as
on Schitt's Creek, he's gay in real life though.
I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely for sure gay.
So like in
well-
his Schitt's Creek character. Okay, well I didn't know that was an option. Are we saying
You should marry him for just for friendship purposes, like
yeah, but James Corden is more fun. So I'd marry James Corden.
Yeah,
He's
I
a
mean,
good time.
Yeah,
I
he,
like to
it
laugh.
seems like he just doesn't care about so many things.
once you see James Corden in the Cats remake,
Oh no!
you'll never
oh
see
no!
him the same way
Oh
again.
no! I don't know if I can.
Yeah, we both haven't seen
Maybe we
it,
need
so
to.
maybe that's the.
Oh, okay.
Just don't bother. I mean, if you're really bored one night and you want to watch something really bad,
It's the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a review. But then obviously I would fuck Giovanni Ribisi because like he's such a good actor and he always plays like different roles and he's hot. Like, he's just hot in like a weird, like, kind of like he's gonna beat my ass, which is like I should be afraid because I have brittle bones, but at the same time, like, I don't know, like I'm very into it, like, you know.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Interesting. You never know how these are gonna go.
It's a fun game. I should incorporate that on my show sometime. It's a fun game.
Thank you. We try to be fun here at Cripple and Baldy.
It's fun.
Oh, here's a good question. All right.
Ready.
So, I have spoken to, or we have spoken to other disabled people who have said the same thing, but you are a disabled man, so it might be different for you. But like, I always feel like I have to be overly sexual towards people so that for them to even like get the idea that I can be sexual. Is this something that you find?
Yeah, and I find that a lot of people that I'm overly sexual with will say like, "Hey, can you tone that down just a little bit because like that's a lot." And I'll have to be like, "Oh, sorry, I just wanted to like make sure you knew that I am sexual too." Like it is something that I have struggled with, and I'm learning to back the pressure off and just be me.
Yeah. It sucks. It's like, because I feel like I don't relate to being like that way towards people, especially like when I don't know them. But I feel like that's the only way that I can be to even get anybody's attention. And it's like, it's frustrating. I don't want to do that because that's not really me. I mean, I am overtly sexual, but not like to fucking people I barely know. And like, it sucks.
Yeah, it's a shit show.
It really is.
Show.
And then it's like half of the time you don't even know how they're going to react because they might like be disgusted by your existence and might be like after like you're like, and then they're just like, ugh, what is that? You know?
Who are you?
Yeah. It's really good for the self-esteem.
So another question we had was like, and I know we've kind of covered it like here and there, but what is your favorite thing about being disabled?
My favorite thing about being disabled, just the relationships that I made with people, honestly, and just the fact that I get to do what I do, and I get to create my own job, and I get to, I get to look at the world differently, and I get to bring people into an experience they've never had before, and those professional things I love about disability and being able to bring that into the world a different way. On a personal note, I mean, I love being a power wheelchair user. It's fun to ride around in a chair all day. As a boy who used to love like trucks and like race cars as a kid, and so now I get to be in one all the time. Like it's kind of cool, and so I love that I get to see the world differently, and I love that I get to be in a power chair, and I love that I get to the friendships I made in the community are what sustain me, like disability community. Even though there are moments where I want to tell them all to fuck right off, because sometimes the disability community can be really harsh to each other, and that shit's really hard. But like the community overall and my friends who are disabled have really kept me going.
So how did you come to a place where you felt so free to like express your sexuality as a disabled person? Like, was that a process, or were you just kind of naturally like
I mean, I've always been naturally like a little bit outgoing, and I liked to play with the idea of shock value always a little bit, but like I said, deep inside, I'm an introvert. I'm an awkward, weird, shy introvert that just wants friends. So this whole persona that I've created for myself of like being out there is partially because like especially within my gay male community, if I show you my dick, you're gonna pay attention to what I'm gonna say about ableism. And if I play with the fact that I have a giant joystick, touch it, like you're gonna focus on me when I talk to you about how ableism is prevalent within our community. It wasn't so much I want to show my body. It was like, this is what everybody else is doing. I want to be a part of it too. I'm seeing all these really attractive white able-bodied gay men like with their shirts off and their clothes off, and they're doing all this stuff, and I want to do it too, to prove that I could do it too. That's where it came from.
Yeah.
A desire to also be included.
Awkward silence.
Awkward silence.
I feel
again.
like we should have a countdown.
Cool.
I know. How many times do we have awkward silence? So how did people treat you after you initially came out as gay, like as being a disabled person, and the fact that you were gay? Like, what kind of responses did you get from like people who were close to you and people who maybe were acquaintances?
I just recently had my 21st year of coming out as gay the other day. We're recording on what, Sunday right now? So on Wednesday, I have my coming out day. And that was really weird. The fact that I've been out since I was 15 is weird. But also, like, my mom rented Priscilla Queen of the Desert and was like, let's sit down and watch it together. Like, she was super open about it. She asked me if I watched, like, Brad Pitt in, like, sex scenes rather than the girl, and I was like, obviously Brad Pitt. So, like, my family was never really not accepting of it. They were really very much, like, okay with it. I think more people have been quote unquote shocked by my coming out as disabled in queer spaces, and having to admit that I need help with certain things, and having to admit that disability was a part of my queerness too. That's been more shocking to them than, say, my queerness overall.
What do you mean by that?
I just mean, like, they're okay with me saying, oh yeah, I'm gay or I'm queer. They're not so okay with me saying, I'm queer, but guess what? I'm also disabled. I need help with this.
Okay.
I need you to help me take off my clothes or take off my shirt or take off my pants, or I need you to help me feed myself on this date. They're not okay with the realities of my queerness as they intersect with disability.
Is it like where maybe you initially meet a person, or like you talk to them on an app and then like you meet up with them and then they didn't realize that you were actually disabled? Is that?
Yeah, that's sort of what they
Okay.
didn't realize, that I was as disabled as I am, and they thought that I'd be more quote unquote independent. I've had guys tell me after nights of, I had this guy come, we went on our first date, and we were talking online for a few weeks, and then we decided to go meet each other on a date like last summer, and we had burgers and we had a laugh, and I brought him back to my place, and we're gonna suck some dick, and we're gonna do, you know, the things. And so we get back here, and I show him how to put me in bed, and I ask him all the things. I said, are you okay with this? He goes, oh yeah, no problem. And so we do it, and we get me in bed, and we start like fucking around. And then halfway through, he was like, I'm not really feeling it. And I was like, yeah, me neither. I guess we just weren't a match, but thanks for giving it a shot, like whatever. And I wasn't super upset about it, because I was like, I guess we just didn't match. And then 4 days later, he messages me and goes, hi, I just want to tell you that I don't think we can hang out anymore, and it's because you're disabled.
What?
And he's like, I felt you were too dependent on me for stuff, and I wanted somebody who was more independent in the bedroom. And I was like, what? Like, okay. So I think people get more scared of the fact that, not to answer the broader question, nobody was really upset when I was queer. Nobody had a real problem with that. They had a problem with when I said to other queer people in my community, I'm queer, but I'm also disabled. And by disabled, I mean blah. I mean, I need help with getting dressed. I need help with eating. All of the particulars of my disability scare people away.
Okay. I get what you're saying. Yeah, this girl had I had written like some disabled rights thing like a year or two ago, and this woman had written on it, and she's queer, and she said to me, she was like, you know, I think that people in the queer community or in the LGBTQ community are she's like, I think they're more accepting than other people of disabled people. And my response to her was, I think people who know disabled people personally are more accepting, because I think no community is accepting of disabled people unless they're disabled, and even then sometimes they're not. But just the fact that you would think they would be more open, but they're not. And in my experience, I would also say the same thing. So
yeah, they're not. But I think, again, that I have an opportunity to teach somebody, and if I can teach somebody through sex or through a sexy time, like one of the sex workers that I work with on a regular basis, we've been, before all the lockdown and shit, we've been having regular sessions every 2 weeks for the last 2 years, or no, 3 years before all this pandemic stuff happened, and he'd never worked with a disabled guy before, and we, you know, there's a power in being someone's first cripple that they fuck. To be quite honest with you, like, there's a real power in that. And so when he told me he'd never been with a disabled guy, I was like, great. I got turned on, because it's like, good, I get to teach you. There's something hot about that. There's a power in that I really enjoy. So if I can teach somebody, like the guy that messaged me 4 days later and said I can't see, well, then that's on you. But I tried to show you, and if you couldn't deal with it, then too bad for you. You're missing out.
But did he have to fucking even message you back? Because you both weren't feeling it. It's like as if he went like, oh, just so you know, I'm not into it. It's like, fuck you, motherfucker. I also wasn't into it.
He didn't have to. Like, it's okay. He kissed like a bird. It was fine.
And number 5, awkward silence.
I was gonna say number
5. Wow.
I don't know how many. I had a question after you said that, and then now I don't remember what my question was. Okay, name a time you've experienced ableism and how you've dealt with it.
Name a time. Where do I begin?
You're like, today. Yes, every day.
I mean, you know, it's so funny. I've experienced so much ableism, but I can't think of it, like any dating app experience. The end, and how I dealt with it. I had a guy once tell me that we should hang out so we can go to the gym together and I could work off my disability.
What?
And I was like, that's not how that works.
What? That's so weird.
So how I dealt with it was that I took a screenshot of his photo or of his message and I put it on social media and I was like, this is what ableism is, bitches. Here it is right there. Like, that's how I deal with it. I put it out there so people can see what we're dealing with. Not necessarily. I don't mean to shame the person. Obviously, that's what I'm doing. But I wanted to show like this stuff really happens because a lot of people will say like, "Oh, nobody would say that." That's like, but no, they would, and they have done, and that stuff hurts.
Here's this is just like for my own curiosity and because I admire how you just like will meet with people on dating apps because I can't do that because I have so much anxiety. Do you have anxiety like about it? Like,
oh yeah, like
what do you,
when I get anxious, I put on like Kelly Clarkson. I put on like Since You've Been Gone, and I rock the fuck out. And I hope that they want to see me again. I hope that I don't scare them away. I have all this anxiety, but I try really hard not to present it because I know that they want this confident disabled guy to show up at the door who's like okay with stuff. And I'm like, you know that old quote of like, the beautiful swan on the top, but the crazy legs at the bottom.
No.
Have you heard that? Like, okay, so a swan is really beautiful on top, but underneath the swan is doing all the paddling to keep itself afloat. Have you heard that? So like, I am the swan. I'm beautiful on the outside, but inside I'm like paddling my legs just to keep things afloat. That's how I feel about dates.
Okay. So you do get like anxious about like your disability and meeting up with these people, but you kind of just you try to not like show it.
Oh yeah, and try is a very operative word in that I do show it, but I try not to.
I just feel like I can't even like, I've gone on like I've gone on 2 dates and both time, the second one it was fine, from a dating app, but like I get so like, it doesn't, to me, it just feels not worth it because I'm like, I'm just going to go meet up with this person. They're going to be weird. They're going to ask me a bunch of fucking shitty questions. I'm going to have to explain why I'm disabled. I'm going to have to explain why I have value. And it's like, I can't, to me, it's like not worth it. Cause I'm like, why? Like this person's not even going to care, or they just want to fuck me. They've always wanted to fuck a disabled. So like, how do you deal with like, I guess like,
listen, if you want to fuck this cripple, I'm down for it. Let's go. Like, my take is different. If you want to fuck me, sure. Because if I can teach you about your ableism while also giving you a good dicking down, I'm here for that. Like, let's go. Sure. Like, it doesn't faze me. And like, there's a part of me that also wants to be uber slutty all the time. So yeah. I am not opposed to giving you some good dick while teaching you about disability. Like, it doesn't. But I think, and I like, this is very similar to what we had said way back. Like, I think your anger is valid, but you're not gonna, it's gonna be so hard for you to meet somebody if you present this like, fuck you, I'm already mad at you before we even did this, or I'm not gonna go because fuck. Like, if you have to put that aside because like, of course
I don't want to have to explain why I have value to people, and it's like that's always what's expected.
Think of it like this: I get it, but you being able to explain is your way of helping them to dismantle their ableism with you right then. If you don't explain, they're going to have all these ideas about what they think you are, when if you just stop them and say, here's what the reality is, how do you feel about that? Then they have a chance to figure it out. Otherwise, you've given them no, like, that's part of getting to know somebody too. Like, the whole disabled idea of like, oh, just Google my disability. Well, that's what? No, because your disability and X's disability over there don't match up. So how, if I Google it, what if I get it wrong? Like, I'm not saying that every single time you have to educate. I'm saying if you want to get in someone's pants or go on a good date, yeah, that's part of your, I wouldn't say, again, not your responsibility. It's your opportunity to do that. You're not responsible for that, but this whole thing of like, and I used to be there. I used to be that angry cripple that was like, oh, I'm not gonna do it, so fuck you. But then I was like, well, I'm lonely, and if I just showed them a little bit, then I wouldn't be so lonely, and I would give them an option to learn. So I get your anxiety, but I also say in the nicest, loving way, get over it and deal with it.
Okay.
That's like a mic drop right there.
Like just gotta deal with it. And I'm not saying you can't be anxious. I'm saying that it's gonna. No wonder you're fucking lonely, because you won't let anybody in.
Well, I have, and it ended badly. So, with people. But anyways, so I had another question to you that that's what I was gonna ask you. Sorry, God, I sound so like whatever. It doesn't matter. What about like devotees? Like I vaguely remember you talking to a woman who considered herself a devotee, and she was married to a disabled man.
She is a devotee, and they have a great relationship. As far as Stacy Gravstovs, she's great. They have a great relationship, as far as I remember. I haven't talked to her in years, but I think they're getting along quite well. I say you can totally be attracted to somebody who's disabled, and you can that's okay. And disability should be a sexy turn on. It's when you dehumanize the person as you're doing that I have a problem with.
Yeah.
I don't mind if you think my joystick's hot. I don't mind if you think my wheels are hot. I don't mind if you think any of that. But if you dehumanize me in the process, I can't talk to you.
Yeah. I feel like after listening to that episode, it really opened my eyes to devotees, because I had never thought of it the way that she presented it, which is just that she's just
neither had I when we first started talking. And when we did that interview, after she said that, I was like, oh, wow. And I started talking to a few devotees, and they were so ashamed about being attracted to disabled people because they've been shut down so much. And I was like, we shouldn't be shutting these people out necessarily, because we want somebody to find us attractive, and here's a whole group of people that do. So what the fuck are we doing?
I know, and then they're shamed for it because you're not supposed to find disabled people attractive. But then there's the other side of it, which is that there's people who think that, like, if you find disabled people attractive, that means that you are, or a disabled person attractive, that means that you are a devotee, or that means that you have to be attracted to them for their disability. It's like this, which is also ridiculous to like say that.
It's just ableism upon ableism upon ableism.
Yeah,
upon ableism.
it really is.
Like I think, and some devotees that I've talked to, they're hot as fuck. And I'm like, you want to worship me in my power chair? I'm here for that. Yes, please. It's when they start turning into like the psychopathic, stalkery, like weird, and then I want to make sure you can't move your wheelchair. That stuff's creepy. That stuff's weird. But like, I had a guy once years ago, we were fucking around, and he was making out with my chair. I was not in my chair. He was like rubbing his body up against my wheelchair, and I was like, okay, that's. Like, that was a little much for me, and I was like, all right, you're not into me anymore. You're just, like, okay.
You're into the chair. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, what? Like, who would want somebody to be into, like, their shoes or something, you know?
No,
or, like,
right?
the pants they
like,
were wearing.
But I don't think devotees overall are bad people. I think we should accept them into a discussion of disability, because they're not all bad. And I find it problematic when disabled people say stuff like all devotees are horrible people, and they're really. And when I talked to Stacy a couple years ago when we did that episode, like, I learned that they weren't. I learned that they were just people who found disability attractive, and that's something we should celebrate. Because when the fuck have we had that before?
Yeah, and she also had said that it's not like she just thinks every disabled person is hot. It's like she also like likes the way that they look too, like their face or
Yeah.
like something about them. She's like, it's not just. And so when she explained it that way, I was like, oh, okay, it's kind of like a preference for like if you like big tits or something, you know? Like you're not just gonna only like you're not gonna marry a person just because they have big tits, right? Like, but that was the initial attraction.
Yeah.
So I'm still confused. Like I still don't really know how I feel about it, but like I get it more now. But it's still like I don't know. Like I wouldn't like somebody being attracted to my wheelchair, like you said, like somebody rubbing, like trying to rub their dick on my chair. I'd be like, what the hell?
Listen, if I'm in the chair and I'm into you and you're rubbing your dick on my chair with me in it, I'm there for let's go. But like, if you're just into my wheelchair and I'm not even a part of it, then we have to have a whole other discussion about what are you really into right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like objectum sexual, right? That might be what they are, but they're like attracted to wheelchairs specifically, or like walkers, or like.
Which is great. Go buy yourself a wheelchair and jerk off into that all day long. But like, I don't want to be involved in it.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Ooh, I was gonna say, so what do you wish you had known when you first started your podcast or consulting?
What do I wish I'd known? How little I knew. I just didn't know a lot. I just was so naive, and I wish I knew how hard it would be to break in. I wish I knew how many different communities of disability there were, how careful you have to be when you enter the disability space and what you say, because I said a lot of stuff. If you listen back to those early episodes, like, whoa, Andrew needed to be taught some things. But like, I just wish I had taken the time to educate myself and stopped relying on just my lived experience as my only education. And the podcast taught me about that. Thank goodness for my guests who have sat down with me and shared with me their stories enough that I learned things. But I just wish that I wish I'd learned more how to market myself better, because I'm never really good at that. Like I'm better than I was, but I'm still pretty shit.
Yeah, I find like what I've realized too, like being kind of more interacting with more disabled people than I ever have really in my life, is my own prejudices too. And I like the fact that you talk about that, because it's like as disabled people, we still have had different lived experiences. Completely. And so we might have like we might be putting ableism on other disabled people without even like realizing that we're doing that.
I do it all the fucking time. But I also think there is a way to call out ableism within the disabled community that isn't to tear them down. I think our community, the trouble I have with disability activism, especially on Twitter and in social media land, is there is no room for a mistake. There is no room for a stumble. There is no room for somebody to say, oops, I fucked up. And we have to allow for that room everywhere. And I think the only way you grow is if you're allowed to make a mistake. And if you own up to the mistake and try again, great.
Yeah, I totally agree. We're just expected to be PC all the time. Like we can't like say anything, or like we'll be reprimanded. And even if we apologize, it's like,
and we'll be reprimanded by all the big like disability Twitter people. And it's like, okay, calm down. Like oops, I said something out of turn. Like oops, sorry. And like and I've been canceled a number of times, but for stuff that I thought was funny or a joke or just a quip. And so now I spend hours thinking about, okay, what am I going to tweet? How am I going to say this properly? How am I going to say it so I don't get destroyed by my own community? And that's the problem.
That sucks, though. It's like so anxiety
It's so limiting, too. You know what I mean? Just for your creative expression.
Yeah, completely. Awkward
Number 6.
Take a shot every time there's an awkward silence.
Wow, I'd be drunk.
So drunk.
You want to plug your everything?
Sure. You can follow my work on Instagram and Twitter at It's Andrew Gurza. That's ITSANDREWGURZA. Instagram and Twitter. Follow me there. I post disability justice stuff, and then me with my shirt off a lot. Sometimes you might see my dick on there because I also work in sex and disability. You can be a guest on my podcast, and I will have Cripple and Baldy back for a proper recording of mine at some point whenever I can get out of my pandemic funk and do it, but I will do it. You can follow my podcast, Disability After Dark, every Thursday, wherever you get those podcasts. I don't know, like I had it on my website, but it's my website's not been done in like 2 years, so don't go there anymore. Just go on your podcast catcher app and download my stuff, Disability After Dark. I also give virtual Zoom talks about sex and disability. If anybody wants to hire me to do that, I'm got a shit ton of free time right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on our show. It has meant like so much because, like I said, you were the one that we wanted and we got you. So, woo.
It's such a pleasure. Like I said, I'll have you back on my show really soon. We'll record it again. It'll be a good time. We'll have another hour where we just do this, basically. It's
Yeah, and I won't be sick and screw everything up, guys. That is a
That's
guaranteed.
okay. It's okay.
Well, yeah, no, to echo, Jazz, thank you so much for making the time to speak with us today.
That's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel.
Intro music is from Lizzo. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or on our website, crippleandbaldy.com. If you'd like to be featured on our podcast or would like to send us an anonymous question, you can find us on our website at crippleandbaldy.com.
That's exactly how I feel.